A pleasant day to all. It is my pleasure to be with the semester's NSTP to deal on the topic environmental protection. I would like to appreciate the people behind this NSTP curriculum, that the younger generation will be enlightened and given a chance to be an advocate regarding environment. I would like to thank also the leadership of Professor Angie Longos and the NSTP teachers for inviting me to speak on this topic. I'm Dr. Stella G. Fernandez, the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, Faculty of the Life Sciences Department, and Campus Sustainability Subcommittee Chair on Biodiversity. The NSTP aims to upgrade knowledge and competencies on various environmental laws, concepts, and principles. Also to make an action plan that will address environmental concerns, particularly in your home, in our homes, school, and community. To value your involvement as environment and advocate partner in taking care of the school community premises clean and green. And also to have a passion of keeping the home, school, and community environment friendly. And finally, which is the most important, is to share love for the environment. Our institution is a Christian university, and everything must be anchored on the Word of God. So I would like to share with you the story of creation based on Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 to 3 says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, 'Let there be light.'" And the story of creation continues.
Earth is, objectively speaking, the best planet. We've got oceans filled with things that look like this, and also this. Towering forests full of things that literally eat light and air. Clouds, rainbows, clouds that look like rainbows, adorable sloths, funky-looking caterpillars, and a universe of invisible tiny things that can do everything from make food to power the cycle of nitrogen on this here hunk of rock. This beautiful, weird corner of the universe has everything a person could need.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, "How do you do?" They're really saying, "I love you." I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I never knew. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh, yeah.
Today's topics: first, environmental protection and management, four biggest environmental issues in the Philippines. Second, the 7 principles of environment, the environmental laws, the forest protection, conservation and development, water sanitation and conservation, and finally, the role of youth in the environmental protection management. Our university also supports the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, and there are 17 goals to transform our world. And my talk for this morning is relevant on the number 6 goal, the clean water sanitation, climate action, life below water on 13 and 15, life on land. Here are the top 4 environmental issues in the Philippines and the government's approach to curtailing them. First, the air pollution. Over the course of the year, air pollution has become problematic in the Philippines. Going by the World Health Organization's Health and Environment Scorecard, the country records an annual mean of 24 micrograms per cubic meter of fine particulate matter, significantly surpassing the recommended maximum of 5 micrograms per cubic meter. For most part, air pollution in the Philippines stems from the burning of fossil fuel like coal and oil. Considering that 53% of the population is without access to clean fuel and technology for cooking, this is bound to further exacerbate air quality in the long run. In this illustration, there are 2 units of circulate fluidized bed combustion coal-fired power plants in Barangay Nipa, Concepcion in Iloilo are owned by PCPC, and in one way or another contributes also to the air pollution in the area. So the power plant will be supplying electricity to the Visayas as their aim through a power supply agreement with the distribution utilities in Negros, Cebu, Leyte, and Panay. This was reported on 2016 through the Philippine Star. Air pollution in the Philippines is also caused by vehicular emission, particularly in areas in Metro Manila. In 2022, other recorded surges in air pollution outside Metro Manila include San Fernando City Station in Pampanga, Antipolo City Station, Binian City Station, Puerto Princesa City Station, and the Davao City Station. We had experienced 2 or 3 years back about the COVID-19. And according to William Conyado, the Environmental Management Bureau Director and the Department of DENR, he said that lifting COVID-19 restrictions, particularly deteriorated the air quality in Metro Manila. For most part, this was due to the acute surge in the number of vehicles on the street, which had fallen to 10% in the country's national capital region. Then another, the given particulate matter that affects our environment was the prevalent use of firecrackers during New Year celebration. Given that the particulate matter in firecrackers, PM10, contains a mixture of carbon, sulfur, and other fine particles that pose a danger to public health. But the DENR affirmed its commitment to controlling air pollution spikes to the nature. However, this approach was to be successful, it would require local government to enforce the available Executive Order number 28 on the control of firecrackers. Another note, although the government introduced the Clean Air Act of 1999, groups like Greenpeace Philippines and the Center for Research, Energy, and Clean Air point out its outdated nature in the international community. For this reason, there has been a pressing calls for the government to update its standards to meet the reality of air pollution. The second environmental issue in the Philippines is on plastic pollution. Among the environmental issues in the Philippines is also plastic pollution, a particularly severe problem in the country, evident by the World Bank's use of the word staggering to describe the situation in the Philippines. An insufficient waste management coupled with high dependence on single use of plastics set the scene for the country's annual generation of 2.7 million tons of plastic waste. So we have here how long single plastic items will be around in our environment after use, single use only. After using a bottled water, you have to throw it and it will last for 450 years. A plastic bag for 20 years. But there are also biodegradable plastic bags in some grocery store. But there are also biodegradable plastic bags in other grocery stores. The cigarette filter for 10 years, the styrofoam forever, may forever din pala, no? And coffee cup for 30 years, plastic straw for 200 years, and the plastic calorie 100 years plus. You have to avoid single-use plastic when eating and drinking on the go. First, carry a backpack. Small things need to be placed inside, especially when you bring a refillable water bottle. And if you go to the market, you can bring your own canvas reusable bag, and you can replace plastic straws by this stainless or even may mga bamboo straws as well. Another, to bring your own eating utensils here in school, if you are having your packed lunch, or even if you want to buy it, you can bring or you can use your own spoon and fork. Find some package-free stores. Bring your own food containers. Use reusable coffee cups and use what you already have. That is to save from using plastics and throwing this anywhere. Plastic pollution in the Philippines faces unsustainable plastic consumption due to an insufficient recycling system. That's a problem. And estimates show that the country loses about $890 million to unrecycled plastics product. And so we have here the Infinity 8 Trading and Marketing Corporation. Of course, this is present in Metro Manila. That this corporation buy plastic waste from scrap dealers, turn them into pellets, and resell them as raw materials to remake food cartons and bottles. So here is an example of their work, that the tin cans are shredded and made into bundles. Also, the galvanized sheet bundles, you can see here that these were shredded as well and made into bundles. This is an example of pellets that are being sold to make other reusable materials. Critics trace the Philippines' plastic pollution problem to the poor enforcement of laws. The government nonetheless introduced Extended Producer Responsibility Act in 2022. With this new law in play, companies are mandated to create EPR programs for plastic waste reduction, recovery, and diversion. Accordingly, by 2028, companies are expected to have achieved an 80% offset of the recovery of their plastic product footprint. So it's not only making, but they will have to at least 80% would be recovered. As the third largest contributor to marine plastics, marine pollution accounts for one of the most pressing environmental issues in the Philippines. Considering that the country generates over 2 tons of plastic waste every year, the World Bank reports that an estimated 20% of its waste ends up in the sea. In the Philippines, Teresa Lazaro, the country's Foreign Affairs Undersecretary, cited reports that there would be more plastics than fish by 2050, while the oceans would be overheated and acidified if people fail to act now. For this reason, marine pollution also endangers biodiversity in the Philippines. So this is the scenario. There will be more plastics than fish in the world's ocean. And here is an illustration in Payatas that man present in the ocean of plastics. One of them is the Philippine Ports Authority's signed agreement with the Worldwide Fund for Nature, Philippines, to address marine pollution around the ports. Through this agreement, the objective is to achieve 50% reduction in plastic waste leakage in the port of Cagayan de Oro, the port of Batangas, and the Manila North. Also, the National Plan of Action on Marine Litter that they had envisioned to achieve zero waste in Philippine waters by 2040. The plan seeks to set a wide range of policies into motion, ranging from public-private partnership to an improvement of public awareness about marine pollution. Another is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. The organization's approach rationally has to do with the recognition that most of the marine plastics polluting the sea are traceable to land-based sources, such as the improper waste disposal system. And so we have to take action on our proper waste disposal. The fourth is on the sea level rise. Floods have been recurrent in the Philippines in 2022 or even in the past years and in the recent years. Few months back, the city of Iloilo has been flooded due to heavy rainfall and affected also the number of school days here at CPU. So this is a picture present or found in Tansa, La Paz. The second in Mabini, Iloilo City, also in Molo, and of course, outside CPU, the streets were flooded as well. Floods have been recurrent in the Philippines in 2022. So this comes back to the country stopping World's Risk Index, which assesses sea level rise caused by coastal flooding as one of its indicators. In line with this problem, the Earth's Organization Protection shows that the residents of the country's capital city, the Manila, will be displaced by 2100s if the current trend continues. At the moment, Manila is already subsiding in 20 millimeters per year, surpassing the mean sea level rise almost tenfold. The 7 environmental principles. So first, nature is beautiful and we are stewards of God's creation. Ang kalikasan ay maganda at tayo ang tagapangasiwa ng lahat ng nilikha ng Diyos. So we have here a short video clip.
Earth is objectively speaking the best planet. We've got oceans filled with things that look like this, and also this. Towering forests full of things that literally eat light and air. Clouds, rainbows, clouds that look like rainbows, adorable sloths, funky-looking caterpillars, and a universe of invisible tiny things that can do everything from make food to power the cycle of nitrogen on this here hunk of rock. This beautiful, weird corner of the universe has everything a person could need.
Creation presupposes the existence of Creator. The beautiful nature around us, perfectly by itself, has deteriorated due to the negative impacts of human use. This principle suggests how a human-creature relationship is translated in our attitude towards creation. Theologians explain that there are different levels of this relationship. First, it is a relationship determined by dominion of humans over creation, that humans can do as they wish because this was given by God. The second level is on stewardship, that we are the caretaker, where human beings are not owners, but this was given by God. We are guardians of integrity of nature. The next level is we have to take this as a sacrament where nature becomes a testimony of God's love. So if somebody loves us and gave that something for us, we have to take care and value what he has given. Next, it is a covenant relationship where protection of the earth is a life mission manifested on things that we have to do and say. So nature is beautiful and we are stewards of God's creation. Next is everything is connected to everything. Actually, this is already the second. Ang lahat ng bagay ay magkaugnay. This intricate relationship of various elements in the ecosystem bind the components together as one functional units. This is a very simple illustration that one depends on the other. So everything is connected to everything. Our environment is composed of abiotic component and biotic component. So we have here the example of sun that gives energy to the plants. So the plant's chlorophyll will be responsible for the production of food, and this food will be consumed by animals, by herbivores, and even these herbivores will be consumed by the carnivores. Also, the plants will give heat and also the source of decomposers, just like fungi and bacteria. The animals gives also energy to the smaller organisms. So there will be cycling of energy and back to the nature. That's why everything is connected to everything else. The living component of ecosystem affects and is affected by the abiotic component, such like air, temperature, and land. There will be interspecific relationships that create a dependency in each other. So they are both have to coexist to live. All these relationships provide dependencies, check and balances that compose the details of our life support system. Human interaction with nature oftentimes, however, alters this ecosystem. Next, we have all forms. So this is the third. All forms of life are important. Ang lahat ng buhay ay mahalaga. All living creatures were created for a purpose in relation to humans and other species on Earth and global ecosystem in general. Thus, when a species becomes extinct, it is like removing a piece of a jigsaw puzzle from the web of life. The variety of life forms manifested by the different levels of biological diversity, community, species, and genes contributes to the stability of the environment. So we have the food webs, food chains, and ecological relationships link parts and animals together in the web of life. Even the bacteria, the insects, the snakes, and the rats that you hate, they have ecological functions, even though humans perceive them as parasites and pests.
Tayo ay maituturing na isa sa maliit na bansa sa mundo. Subalit maliit man, tayo ay isa sa pinaka-mega-diverse country. Tayo ay nagtataglay ng iba't ibang uri ng buhay at likas na anyo ng kalikasan. Karamihan ay dito lamang matatagpuan. Ang sari-saring uri ay tinatawag na biological diversity o biodiversity. Subalit ito ay hindi ganap na napapahalagahan. Katunayan, marami sa mga ito ay nalalagay sa peligro, sa sitwasyon ng pagkasira o pagkawala. Dahilan upang ang ating bansa ay tagurian ding biodiversity hotspot. Sa pangunguna ng Department of Environment and Natural Resources, ang pagpapahalaga at pangangalaga sa biodiversity ay pinalakas sa pamamagitan ng pagtatalaga ng Protected Areas and Wildlife Bureau bilang Biodiversity Management Bureau o BMB. Iba't ibang programa ay pinaiiral upang mga layunin nito ay maisakatuparan. Tagumpay ay mas maaabot kung mga mamamayan ay magkakaroon ng kooperasyon at partisipasyon. Ang BMB bumuo ng isang advokasya upang mapalaganap ang adhikain. Una sa hangarin ay mas mapalawak ang kaalaman at kaunawaan sa katagang biodiversity. Ang mga katagang ugnayan ng iba't ibang buhay, pahalagahan, pangalagaan ay gagamitin upang mandato ay mas malinaw na mailahad. Mga mensahe ng kampanya ay resulta ng malawak na konsultasyon sa mga nangungunang sektor at organisasyon na nagsusulong din sa kapakanan ng biodiversity. Lumikha ng isang campaign slogan, "Kung wala yun, wala nito," ay ang katagang mag-aangat sa kahalagahan ng biodiversity. Ilang pulong ang ginanap upang mailahad ito sa ilang pribadong sektor at kinatawan ng media. Layunin ay makakuha ng suporta upang kampanya ay mas malawak na maipaabot sa mga mamamayan. May 22, 2015, ang International Day for Biological Diversity. Ginanap ang media launch of the Biodiversity Advocacy. Sa pangunguna ng Biodiversity Management Bureau, inilunsad ang bagong advokasya. Nagkaroon din ng pagkakataon ng ilang organisasyon na mailahad ang kanilang suporta sa kampanya. Formal na ipinalabas ang unang 3 infomercial para sa advokasya. Sa simpleng paglalarawan, ang kahalagahan ng biodiversity ay mas epektibong maipaaalam sa mas nakararami. Sa simpleng advokasya, kapakanan ng ating likas na kapaligiran para sa kapakanan natin ay lubos na mauunawaan sa mga katagang, "Kung wala yun, wala nito." Sa mga corals nangingitlog ang iba't ibang isda. Mga bagong isda ay nabubuhay at naninirahan hanggang ganap na lumakas. Sa malinis na karagatan, sila ay lalaki. Mangingisda ay may mga ani sa tamang panahon. Mga isdang aabot sa ating palengke upang tayo ay may isda sa ating hapagkainan. Kung mga corals ay nasisira dahil sa ating mga gawain, paano na ang hanapbuhay nila? Paano na ang isdang pagkain natin? Kung wala yun, wala nito. Bawat uri ng buhay ay mahalaga para sa isa't isa. Maaaring isipin na ang isang uri ng ibon ay pwedeng wala sa likas na tirahan nito. Subalit, kung wala ang ibong ito, dadami ang pesting kinakain nito. Pesting pagkain naman ay palay, lubos na sumisira sa taniman. Pagkalugi sa hanapbuhay ng magsasaka, dulot din ay kakulangan ng bigas sa mga palengke. Kaya kung wala ang ibong ito, paano na ang kabuhayan nila? Paano na ang bigas natin? Kung wala yun, wala nito. May mga bundok na malawak ang kagubatan, natirahan na maraming uri ng hayop. Dahil sa likas na ganda, magandang tanawin at pasyalan nito. Nagkakaroon ng hanapbuhay ang mamamayang nakatira sa paligid nito. Kainan, tindahan, tirahan, at kung ano-ano pang mga negosyo. Mahalaga na manatiling maayos ang bundok at kagubatan. Kung ito ay masira at mawalan ng likas na ganda, paano na ang kanilang kabuhayan? Paano na ang ating pasyalan? Kung wala yun, wala nito.
The fourth is everything must go somewhere. Ang lahat ng bagay ay may patutunguhan. Byproducts consumptions go back to the environment. Everything that we throw away, pieces of paper, the leftover food, the fillings of fruits, the plastic wrappers, used containers, they have to go everywhere. Even plants and animals have their own waste, just like the feces, the urine, the dead leaves, and the branches.
Earth is objectively speaking the best planet. We've got oceans filled with things that look like this, and also this. Towering forests full of things that literally eat light and air. Clouds, rainbows, clouds that look like rainbows, adorable sloths, funky-looking caterpillars, and a universe of invisible tiny things that can do everything from make food to power the cycle of nitrogen on this here hunk of rock. This beautiful, weird corner of the universe has everything a person could need.
It is the law of nature that the byproducts of metabolism return to the soil acted upon first by the worms, by the bacteria and fungi, and then converted into minerals and again absorbed by plants and eaten by animals. But what happens if what we had thrown is an artificial product such as plastic? Then the natural bacteria cannot recognize them and may not be capable of breaking them apart. These non-biodegradable products must enter another material cycle, the one that goes to the factory to be manufactured into a new product that should be. Thus, the retrieval, collection, and recycling of these materials become necessary so they do not pollute land and water habitats. Next, ours is a finite earth. Ang kalikasan ay may hangganan. Everything that we need is provided by nature in abundance. What are these? The food, the water, the energy, the minerals, and air. However, some resources that we depend upon nowadays are extracted excessively but are slow to replace. These are non-renewable resources experience limits of supply. For instance, the fossil fuels produced over thousands of years may be exhausted in 100 years. So some sources like water, wherein we will have to discuss on that later on, may be replaced easier, but some become inaccessible because of water pollution and excessive extraction. It can be argued that an increasing population decreases the amount of resources available to each person. And so we have this carrying capacity, or we call it as the ability of the ecosystem to support number of organisms, may be influenced by limit of resources due to an increasing population. So there will be competition in this carrying capacity. So for example, in this illustration, this is the nature. They could only say, how many organisms can we support? And on the other hand, in the ecological footprints, how many resources do we need to support us? So for some time, we also need to limit this carrying capacity that would be enough for the population in that environment. The equilibrium is said to be, in biology, refers to the state of balance and stability, and that should always be the aim. We must balance everything, in which internal and external factors are regulated to maintain optimal functioning. And so what would be the case? Pollution would be the factor that would affect the equilibrium. Environmental equilibrium is also maintained by nature itself. We have two successions. One is the primary succession, and these are the stages. So we have here the fourth illustration. First, this is a bare rock. After several years on its natural succession, this bare rock, there will be weathering and pioneer species will begin to grow, just like the mosses and the other bryophytes. Then after this pioneer species, the weeds and the grasses will grow in soil. Eventually, trees and shrubs will sprout, and that would make an ecosystem that reaching equilibrium. In the environmental equilibrium, the nature will have different disturbances, just like fires, hurricanes, and tornadoes, or caused by human disturbances, a pasture abandoned by a farmer, or through logging and mining. So these are the stages of secondary succession. First, it varies depending on the type of disturbance, and a disturbed area returns to its previous condition, eventually reaches equilibrium because the soil and seeds are already present. So in due time, they'll have to regrow and organisms move in. And there is a quick recovery of the ecosystem. Then the last is everything changes. Ang lahat ay nagbabago. This is where metamorphosis, changes in the biophysical occur naturally. As they say, there is nothing more permanent in the world than change. Consider the following examples. Metamorphosis of caterpillars to butterfly illustrates morphological changes that occur in living forms. The increase of vegetation on Earth augmented the amount of oxygen that we breathe, and the plants also can be the source. Seasons are cyclic changes that contribute to the diversity of flowers, fruits, vegetables, and other crops during the year. And random changes manifested by the natural catastrophes, such as typhoon that destroy forests, coral reefs, and mangroves, and also volcanic eruptions that annihilate surface flora and submerge. The next is on environmental laws. I will discuss on major environmental laws. First one is the Republic Act 9003, Ecological Waste Management Act of 2000. The law aims to adopt systematic, comprehensive, and ecological waste management program that shall ensure the protection of public health and environment. The law ensures proper segregation, collection, storage, treatment, and disposal of solid through the formulation and adaptation of best eco waste. So even in our school, we have these garbage bins that had been classified. Make sure to throw the proper waste on these different bins for paper, for glass or biodegradable and non-biodegradable materials. Next, the Republic Act 9275, the Philippine Clean Water Act of 2004. The law aims to protect the country's water bodies from pollution from land-based sources, the industries and commercial establishments, and so on. It provides a comprehensive and integrated strategy to prevent and minimize pollution through a multi-sectoral and participatory approach involving all the stakeholders. Third, the Republic Act 8749, Philippine Clean Air Act of 1999, which I had mentioned already. So the law aims to achieve and maintain clean air that meets the National Air Quality Guideline. So the maximum level is 5 micrograms per cubic meter. This is throughout the Philippines. It's not only in Metro Manila or some provinces, but throughout the Philippines, while minimizing the possible associated impacts to the economy. And so that's why right now we have some e-bike that would lessen on the air pollutants. For the Republic Act 6969 on Toxic Substances, Hazardous, and Nuclear Waste Control Act of 1990. The law aims to regulate, restrict, or prohibit the importation, manufacture, processing, sale, distribution, use, and disposal of chemical substances and mixtures that present unreasonable risk to human. It likewise prohibits the entry, even in transit, of hazardous and nuclear waste and their disposal into the Philippine territorial limits for whatever purpose, and to provide advancement and facilitate research studies on toxic chemicals. In our department, the chemistry department, it is being regulated that the toxic chemicals will be properly disposed. And we are compliant to that in the DANR. Another major environmental law, which is the Presidential Decree 1586, the Environmental Impact Statement of 1978. So the Environmental Impact Assessment System was formally established in 1978 with the enactment of Presidential Decree number 1586 to facilitate the attainment and maintenance of rational and orderly balance between socio-economic development and environmental protection. If you can recall, the PCPC power plant in Concepcion, it passed its environmental impact assessment and that's why they were allowed to open. The next is the forest protection and conservation. So this is a very good slogan. Plans to protect the environment are in fact plans to protect man. Hopefully you can reflect on this. So forestation is the conversion of forests through the clearing of trees to other land uses or the long-term reduction of tree canopy to below 10%. It is often done for commercial or human needs. This removal of forest is a significant contributor to climatic instability and biodiversity loss. Deforestation is therefore one of the most pressing environmental issues facing the world today. The second is the expansion of agricultural land. Cause of this expansion is through subsistence farming. This subsistence farming means that the farmers in these areas typically clear small plots of land by cutting down trees and burning them. However, later on, this practice becomes unsustainable as then the farmers are forced to clear a larger land surface when the soil becomes infertile. So they have to move, use again another portion of the plot until finally it widens its scope. The third is logging and wood harvesting. You can see here in the illustration, especially in the Mindanao area, when forests are degraded due to logging practices, they become much more vulnerable to conversion to other land like mining, agriculture, and even settlement, making of subdivisions. And also its effect, the soil becomes compacted and making it difficult for trees to grow. And for sometimes after logging, the soil will be eroded and cause again destruction to the lowland. Our country have programs in protecting these forested areas. And these are some: creating protected areas like national parks and wildlife reserves that are off limits to logging and other development activities. So people will instead visit that area as part. Another, there will be reforming trade agreements that involve holding companies and countries accountable for their environmental impact and requiring them to adopt sustainable forestry practices. Another is educating local communities about the importance of forest and sustainable forest management practices can help change behavior and prevent further deforestation. Another is the urbanization and expansion of cities. Urbanization, these two pictures on top was the undisturbed and down below because of the urbanization. An urban area grows, they require more resources to sustain their population. So back again into carrying capacity. Increasing demand for products like beef and agricultural foods. This demand fuels deforestation, both directly through conversion of forested land into housing because of the increase of population or even into agricultural land, and indirectly by increasing pressure on forests to provide resources, just like the wood and other materials needed as furnitures. Next is on population, human population growth. The current population is 117,599,251 based on the projections of the latest United Nations data. And the UN estimates that on July 1, 2023, we're done with that population at 137,368. So there's already about 200,000 difference as based on the United Nations projection. So that is a reference. You can visit on that site that it gives a daily report of the population. Of course, just like in the urbanization, as population grows, so does the demand for food, which puts pressure on farmers to clear more land to cultivate crops and raise livestock. And this has led even to the destruction of vast area of primary forest. Okay, population growth contributes to deforestation, as explained previous slide. And to address this human population growth, it is for us to adopt an eco-friendly practices and choosing products that are sustainable sourced that can reduce our environmental impact and protect the world's forest. We have to do also some action from our end. Another issue is on the expansion of manufacturing and industrial sites. Of course, the growth of industrial sector is also like to spill over to other property segments such as residential, and it distract other natural living resources that we have, especially for the forested area. And this one, the over exploitation of nature resources, of natural resources. So the government has an action on this in 2018 that the ENR revocation of mining permits to prevent further danger to the lives of small-scale miners. This is in Cordillera Administrative Region in the wake of typhoon-induced landslides that left dozens of people dead. So these are some other concerns that the Philippines battle against deforestation, the progress and challenges. So the Philippines made significant progress in recent years in its efforts to combat deforestation. So these are some other programs which are being implemented by our government in order to have a sustainable forest management and biodiversity conservation. First, the Philippines acted various laws and policies to protect our forests. The Forest Management Bureau's community-based forest management program aims to involve local communities in forest management and conservation of efforts. So the local people themselves will have to watch over the forested area. The program successfully reduced deforestation rates in some areas and promoted sustainable forest management practices. One program is the National Greening Program, which aims to plant 1 billion trees across 1.5 million hectares of land by 2018. The program has been successful in planting millions of trees across the country, and it has also created thousands of jobs in forestry sector. I took this picture when we had our outreach in Libertad Antique. So the local community helped us in planting, especially they are the first benefactors of what. Another is the illegal logging, which is the major problem in the country. So what the government has to do with this illegal logging? Illegal logging contributes to deforestation and leads to the loss of biodiversity, soil erosion, and water pollution. The loss of habitat of many birds, animals, and also mammals. It reduced the pollinator activity, so there will be no production later on or reduce of production and overall reduction in biodiversity. Also, with this conversion of forest lands into agricultural land, the Philippines has seen this increased conversion of forest into agriculture. Unfortunately, this conversion often leads to unsustainable farming practices such as slash and burn agriculture, further contributing to deforestation. What more needs to be done? So the government needs to enforce stricter laws and penalties against illegal logging and forest conversion. The country also needs to promote sustainable land use practices and increase involvement of local communities in forest management and conservation efforts. And the Philippines needs to address the root causes of deforestation. Why do these people do the deforestation, such as poverty. Probably that's the root cause, the lack of alternative livelihoods for local communities. So providing alternative livelihood options such as ecotourism, agroforestry, and sustainable forestry can help reduce the pressure on deforestation. And next is on water sanitation and conservation. Water conservation is the practice of using water efficiently to reduce unnecessary water usage. According to Freshwater Watch, water conservation is important because the fresh, clean water is a limited resource, such as well as costly one. As a homeowner, you're probably already well aware of the financial cost of inefficient water use. Conservation of this natural resource is critical to environment and our wallets as well. So why save water? Because we need clean, fresh water, and this is a limited resource. So which is just like on the 7 principles. Why is water a limited resource? Because, so this is the ratio on how the water is distributed in the world. All water is 97.4% that covers the oceans and saline lakes. And only out of that is 2.6% fresh water. And this fresh water will be divided into two, the groundwater and the ice caps and glaciers. So from the freshwater, lake is only 0.14%. And the readily accessible freshwater we have for the biota 0.0001%, also with the rivers, and the atmospheric water vapor 0.001%, and the soil moisture is 0.005%. That's why we need to conserve water, because of its limited resource. So right now, we have that bottled water. So later on, we have to convert those ocean water into fresh water. Second, conserving water means using our water supply wisely and be responsible for that. Third, conserving water involves refraining from water pollution. We have to control our waste material so that we have enough water. Then, the reasons why saving water is important, because the uses are endless. Water is a great blessing of God. There is not a single thing which can survive without water. So save this blessing. Water grows food. So of course, watering plants in the process of photosynthesis, because water is important in the process in order for them to produce food and air as well. Third, it protects our ecosystem and wildlife. Okay. Then conserving water also saves energy. So reason why, letting our faucet run in 5 minutes uses about as much as energy as leaving 60-watt light bulb for 22 hours. So the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, there are 3 dimensions in general. So the social, economic, and environmental, and that is our focus in this talk, the peace, justice, and effective institutions. Again, to review the 2030 Sustainable Goals, 17 goals to transform our world. And thank you again for allowing NSTP to give you this information. Okay, the greatest challenge is, what can I do, or what can we do on a personal level? So there are many ways to be involved on this. First, joining a community to be one of the best ways to increase your impact. At your age, you can take action by bringing your whole family on board as family member, or you can join any organization and be part of that climate activist. Next, you have to reflect on the concept of effective altruism, a project that aims to find the best ways to help others and put them in practice. I hope in this personal level, after knowing this talk or probably refreshing the other information, you have to take action. Start from our homes. Start it with yourself. On a political level, of course, all of you are voters. Be an advocate and make your feelings known. Become our vocal and passionate advocates with friends and also with family. Join organizations that are organizing climate actions. You can find many of these in the social media, and protest locally, whether in your city, district, or even at school. If you are a voter, vote for politicians who will champion effective climate action by government. Vote for parties or organizations that espouse self-reform and adoption of Minister of Future into government. So for the concluding remarks, Sustainable Development presents a paradigm of change for the 21st century. Sustainable development promotes ecological integrity, equitable sharing of resources, and people empowerment as pillars of growth. Biodiversity conservation contributes to ecological integrity through both in situ and ex situ techniques. Biodiversity conservation becomes successful only if coupled with poverty alleviation, improving equity of access to resources, and instituting social change. And so the government will have to do on this matter as much as possible. Environmental education, so the NSTP comes in this, facilitates social transformation by modifying attitudes and behavior of people towards an ecological ethic. Now, looking through the eyes of the divine nature, you see the essence within the manifestation, the creator with the creation, and its wonderful, wonderful world. In Numbers 35, verses 33 to 34 says, do not pollute the land where you are. Bloodshed pollutes the land, and atonement cannot be made for the land on which blood has been shed, except by the blood of the one who shed it. Do not defile the land where you live and where I dwell, the Lord said. For I, the Lord, dwell among Israelites. For I, the Lord, dwell among you. And in Deuteronomy 20, verses 19 to 20, when you lay siege to a city for a long time, fighting against it to capture it, do not destroy its trees by putting an axe to them, because you can eat their fruit. Do not cut them down. Are the trees people that you would besiege them? However, you may cut down trees that you know are not fruit trees, and use them to build siege works until the city of war with you falls. My references and other are on the slides. Madamong gid na salamat. And I pray and challenge you to be part in loving our environment. May God bless you all, and thank you again.